for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. The South Korean government has proposed a budget of around $510 billion for next year, up 3.2% from 2024. The budget will help socially vulnerable groups and shore up the economy while ensuring fiscal health. The Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed to new record highs on Monday as investors wait on the much-anticipated rate cut next month. But textures stumbled as Nvidia struggled ahead of its earnings announcement this week. At least 7 people are dead and dozens of others injured after Russia conducted massive airstrikes across Ukraine on Monday. The chief of the nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, is visiting Russia's Kursk nuclear power plant, which Russia claimed Ukraine tried to target in a drone attack last week. The Yoon administration proposed a budget bill for next year of 677.4 trillion Korean won, or that's around $510 billion during a cabinet meeting on Tuesday. In a briefing earlier this morning, Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok said that despite the recent economic recovery, vulnerable groups and small business owners have yet to feel that the economy is improving. As such, some key areas targeted by the budget are increasing the basic living allowance for low-income households, expanding housing supply, and increasing financial support for small businesses. The budget proposed on Tuesday is an increase of 3.2% from this year's budget. Now, while it is larger than last year's increase of 2.8%, the nation is continuing to tighten its belt as it remains in the process of strengthening a fiscal soundness that had deteriorated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And President Yoon Suk-yeol says the 2025 budget proposal again focuses on efficiency and enhancing cooperation across different government agencies, saying that the 24 trillion Korean won, or around $18 billion has been reconstructed for better use. Let's take a listen.
이러한 건전 재정과 협업의 기반 위에 맞춤형 약자 복지의 확충, 경제 활력의 확산, 미래를 대비하는 경제 체질 개선, 안전한 사회 및 글로벌 중추 외교 등 4대 분야를 집중적으로 지원할 것입니다.
So this came on Tuesday as he opened a cabinet meeting that approved the 2025 government budget proposal. In terms of welfare, he spoke about basic living support to help small businesses with loans. For the economy, he emphasized expanded support for the R&D sectors. He also said the budget would tackle social issues like the low birth rate by supporting young couples. The budget proposal has now been sent to Parliament for review. Now, the first regular session of the 22nd National Assembly opens on September 2nd and is still led by opposition parties. North Korea showed off that it staged a test show of its so-called suicide drones this past weekend. The drones revealed by the regime appear similar to those used by Russia. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un supervised a performance test of so-called suicide drones on Saturday and called for the development of more to boost war readiness. According to state media on Monday, Kim oversaw the test of the new exploding drones, which are made to precisely destroy preset enemy targets on the ground and in the sea. Kim emphasized the need to develop different types of drones and improve combat capabilities for war operations. He also highlighted the importance of incorporating artificial intelligence technology when developing drones. Of the 2 drones revealed in the photographs, one resembles Russia's Lancet 3, which has had significant success in targeting Ukrainian forces. South Korea is looking into the possibility of Pyongyang receiving help from Moscow.
We are aware that Russia gave some drones to North Korea as gifts. We need to analyze various aspects, including whether North Korea made modifications to improve their performance.
One expert says the test could have been aimed at boasting that the regime is capable of producing and supplying drones to Russia.
Russia is currently very dependent on drones in the war against Ukraine. So if North Korea develops and now produces them, I believe it will be meaningful in the long term with regard to supplying weapons to Russia.
The expert also pointed out that the North's drones could be beneficial to the regime, as they are harder to detect and strike due to their small size and low-altitude flight maneuvers. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The National Intelligence Service here in Seoul says the new missile launchers North Korea recently said it has developed have the potential to hit the central part of South Korea. But it also cast doubt on the regime's ability to actually supply itself with missiles. Our Lee Si-hu has more.
Regarding North Korea's recent claim that it's equipped itself with 250 new tactical ballistic missile launchers, South Korea's intelligence agency believes that the missiles, if launched, could reach as far as Chungcheongdo province, having a possible range of 110 kilometers. But as to whether Pyongyang can actually supply itself with the missiles, South Korea has its doubts. This is according to a National Intelligence Service report made to the National Assembly Intelligence Committee on Monday. The vice chairman of the committee, lawmakers Lee Sung-kwon and Park Sun-won, following their meeting with the NIS, told reporters that there are concerns about the launcher's potential frontline placement in operation and that there is pressure to prepare for defense. But the NIS also believes that the regime's ongoing supply of weapons to Russia could make it difficult to meet its own demand for missiles. North Korean state media reported earlier this month that Pyongyang plans to deploy hundreds of new missile vehicles called transporter erector launchers to its border with South Korea. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
In the meantime, South Korea and the U.S. are staging joint live-fire air drills until Wednesday as part of the Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise. The training is underway in waters off South Korea's western coast. It involves some 60 military planes, including South Korea's F-35A, F-15K, KF-16 fighters, and U.S. A-10 attack aircraft. The drill is particularly focused on strengthening response capabilities against enemy provocations that occur simultaneously in the air and on the ground, such as cruise missile and long-range artillery launch attacks. Russia Monday fired more than 200 drones and missiles at Ukraine, leading to casualties and power outages across the country. Our An Sung-jin tells us more.
Russia launched drones and missiles across Ukraine on Monday in what may be its biggest air attack so far. Ukraine's air forces say more than 200 Russian drones and missiles were used in the attack. That will be more than 150 used in Russia's previous largest air attacks last December. The State Emergency Service of Ukraine have stated that at least 7 people were killed in Monday's missile and drone attacks and more than 40 were injured.
Each such strike reminds us again and again of the need for long-range capabilities, the necessity to provide our defense forces with sufficient long-range weapons, capable of destroying terrorists precisely where they launch their attacks from.
Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal stated that Russia targeted around 15 energy facilities overnight, leading to an emergency blackout. The mayor of Kyiv said all electricity and water supplies were cut off due to these power outages. Air raid alerts were issued across the country.
I would like to see a response to Moscow so that they will feel what we feel. I want to provide us more and allow us to use long-range missiles inside Russia so that they will feel the horror we feel.
Russian authorities stated that they targeted Ukrainian gas and power supplies, arguing that this infrastructure is used to support Ukrainian missile and drone production. The Ukraine Air Force claimed that it shot down 102 of the 127 missiles and 99 out of the 109 drones. Ukraine has further asked for help from the West.
This is the optimal counterterrorism tactic that every one of our partners, from whom we expect decisions and long-range capabilities, would have the right to employ and would certainly use for their own defense.
Meanwhile, the International Atomic Energy Agency is set to visit the Kursk region of Russia on Tuesday local time to conduct an on-site inspection, as Russia has claimed that Ukraine attacked the Kursk nuclear power plant with drones, which Ukraine has denied. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
It was a mixed start to the week on Wall Street, with the Dow Jones closing at a record high, even as losses for big tech dragged the S&P 500 and Nasdaq down lower. Meanwhile, global oil prices soared as tensions in the Middle East escalated. Lee Seung-jae reports.
After falling more than 1,000 points in a single day on August 5th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average recovered to reach a fresh record high at the end of Monday's trading session. The Dow Jones rose 65.44 points, or 0.16% from the previous trading session, to close at a new record high of 41,240.52. The index recorded its previous high back on July 17th. The positive momentum on Wall Street comes on the back of expectations of a rate cut by the U.S. Federal Reserve next month, with some economists even predicting a 50 basis point cut. However, the tech-heavy Nasdaq fell nearly 1% on Monday due to profit-taking in semiconductor stocks. The index fell more than 150 points on the day, with Nvidia falling 2.25%. With the AI giant's Q2 earnings being announced next week, investors are selling to profit from gains, following a rebound of nearly 30% from its recent low on August 5th. Meanwhile, global oil prices soared on Monday amid geopolitical risks in the Middle East, including the recent clash between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Brent crude futures for October delivery on the Intercontinental Exchange closed above $81 a barrel, up more than 3% from the previous trading session. On the New York Mercantile Exchange, the West Texas Intermediate futures for October delivery closed above $77, up 3.5% from the previous session's close. The surge in global oil prices also come as oil fields in eastern Libya will be closed, with production and exports halted. Authorities cited unspecified protests and pressures for the pause, as the eastern oil fields account for nearly all of the country's oil productions. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
As Hyundai Motor pushes to start production at its EV plant in Georgia before the end of the year, a local conservation group has called for a reassessment of the plant's environmental permit. A U.S. federal agency is set to conduct a re-examination, but no delay is expected for the EV plant project. Yoon reports.
The Associated Press reported on Monday that a U.S. federal agency will be reassessing its environmental permit for South Korean firm Hyundai Motor's electric vehicle plant in Georgia. This comes after a conservation group, the Army Corps of Engineers, claimed that the plant's potential impact on the local water supply was not properly examined by regulators. The conservationists stated in a letter on Friday that the project's permit application in 2022 never mentioned the amount of water Hyundai would be pulling, up to 25 million liters per day, from a local underground aquifer, which is a major source of drinking water in the area. The letter said that the project would have negligible impacts on municipal and private water supplies. Hyundai Motor's $7.6 billion plant, designated to produce electric vehicles and the batteries that power them, has been pushing to start production at the plant located in Bryan County, west of Savannah, before the end of the year. And it was earlier in 2024 that further details of the plant's needs came out as the Georgia Environmental Protection Division considered a proposal for 4 new wells to supply water to the auto factory. While it is not known how long the additional review might take, the Army Corps has stated that the permit is currently still valid, and they have not asked for work on the Hyundai Motor factory to stop, reiterating that their intention is not to delay or disrupt any construction at the plant site. Hyundai Motor Group Metaplant America said in a statement Monday that it will assist as needed to ensure that Army Corps gets the information it needs. And one of the local agencies that worked with state officials to bring Hyundai to Georgia said the information requested is expected to be submitted within 10 days, reaffirming that the reevaluation shouldn't cause any holdup to the project. Yoon, Arirang News.
As trade tensions escalate between China and Western countries, Canada is following the U.S. and the EU's lead in throwing a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles later this year. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
Canada has announced that it will be applying a tariff on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles. over what it says is an unfair advantage for China in the global market. The announcement came on Monday following a meeting between U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau the day before.
We're listening to automakers, we're listening to workers. Shortly, we will be introducing a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles and a 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum.
These new tariffs match the levies imposed by the Biden administration and come amid mounting trade tensions between China and countries in the Western Hemisphere. Canada's switch-up in automotive policy to protect domestic car production starts on October 1st, and duties will apply to all EVs imported from China. This includes those made by Tesla, and the announcement resulting in shares dropping by 3%. China is Canada's second-largest trading partner, and auto shipments from China surged nearly fivefold year-on-year in 2023 as a result of Tesla's EVs. In a similar case with the European Union, the EU lowered its tariff rate for Tesla in comparison to its rates for other Chinese EV imports. Other than Tesla, leading Chinese EV maker BYD has been trying to enter the Canadian market, establishing a Canadian corporate entity and filing a notice saying that it plans to sell passenger cars in Canada as early as next year. BYD currently sells electric buses in Canada and the US and sells EVs and hybrid cars in Mexico and other Latin American countries. Due to concerns that Chinese automakers could bypass trade restrictions by entering the American market through Mexico, the US is considering ways to block this from happening. The new Chinese EV tariff in the United States, which raises the rate from 25% to 100%, is due to go live from the end of August, while the European Union is set to impose additional tariffs starting in November. 문혜련, 아리랑 뉴스.
Brazil is facing a severe fire crisis during the dry months of August and September. The Amazon, Pantanal, and Cerrado biomes have been heavily affected by fires due to severe drought and climate change. Southeastern São Paulo has reported almost 3,500 fire alerts this month, and that's the highest since 1998. Smog from the fires has covered much of Brazil, including the capital city of Brasilia, which issued its first smog alert since 2007. On Sunday, President Lula visited a fire monitoring center and vowed to increase firefighting efforts and investigate the fires, which are suspected to have been caused unintentionally. Now, on the culture front, an original musical based on Arirang, a traditional Korean folk song, has mesmerized the people around the world. Our Choi Soo-hyung has the story.
The world is being captivated by the Korean musical Ari, the Spirit of Korea. It reinterprets the story of Arirang, a 600-year-old Korean folk song originating from Jong-un County in Gangwon Province. It tells the story of a carpenter, Shin Ki-mok, who leaves his hometown and family to sail to the capital city, Hanyang, to rebuild Gyeongbokgung Palace. Ari Arari was created by Jongsun County Office as part of cultural events for the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. Over the past 7 years, it has gained popularity, being showcased at various festivals worldwide.
We created cultural content using Johnson Ari Arari to preserve Johnsun County's unique identity, while adapting it to modern trends with universal themes like love, family, and home.
The musical was officially invited to one of the most prestigious arts and culture festivals in the United Kingdom, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, from August 1st to 25th, alongside 3,800 other productions. Director Yoon Jong-un said that he focused more on music than on language, aiming for everyone to experience the performance through all 5 senses with the Korean essence.
We performed a total of 23 times, and the local response was incredibly enthusiastic. Even though most of the audience were foreigners, they laughed and enjoyed it together. And as they left the venue, many of them were humming the melody of Ari Arari.
Last year, Ari Arari won the Best Fiscal Theatre Award at the Adelaide Fringe Festival in Australia. Even a foreign tourist who first saw Ari Arari there later visited Jong-un and then went to this year's Edinburgh Festival specifically to see the performance again and meet the actors, which moved them to tears. Yoon also expressed hope that Ari Arari would make Koreans living abroad feel even prouder of their heritage.
In the early 1900s, some Koreans were forcibly relocated to Central Asia or left the Korean peninsula. We call this path the Arirang Road. Just like the Silk Road, Koreans have spread worldwide. Back then, it was a path of suffering. But now, through our performance, we dream of turning it into a path of joy.
He hopes that people worldwide will visit Jong-un at least once to experience Ari Arari. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Let's move on to the world now. Starting off in Pakistan, officials confirmed on Monday local time that at least 73 people have been killed in a wave of separatist militant attacks and military counter-operations in Balochistan province. Insurgents targeted police stations, railway lines, and highways. Pakistan's military reported that following one of the attacks, 14 soldiers and police officers, as well as 21 militants, died in fighting on a major highway in the Lasbela district. Balochistan's chief minister, Sarfraz Bugti, confirmed that 38 civilians were also killed, including 23 passengers who were shot, with their vehicles set ablaze. The Baloch Liberation Army took responsibility for this and other attacks, including a suicide bombing on a parliamentary base involving 4 attackers, though authorities have yet to confirm all details. The BLA is one of several insurgent groups fighting for independence from Pakistan. It accuses the central government of exploiting the province's resources. The group also calls for the expulsion of China from Balochistan. In France, right-wing leaders Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella met with President Emmanuel Macron on Monday, as Macron continues meetings to find a new prime minister. Bardella, head of the National Rally Party, told Macron that choosing a prime minister from the left-wing coalition would be a danger to public order and the economy. Le Pen has described the current political situation as chaos, saying that there is no easy solution to the crisis. The challenge for the new Prime Minister of France will be securing parliamentary approval for critical reforms, including the 2025 budget amid pressure from the European Commission, and bond markets to reduce France's deficit. Iran's Major General Mohammad Bagheri of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has said that the revenge for the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh is, quote, certain. Speaking at a ceremony for the armed forces in Tehran on Monday, Bagheri stated that Iran will determine how and when to respond to the assassination on July 31st, which it blames on Israel. Iran's Revolutionary Guards had previously confirmed that Haniyeh was killed in Tehran by a short-range projectile. A cake wasn't enough for 102-year-old British woman Manette Bailey, who decided to celebrate her birthday by jumping out of a plane. The skydive over Suffolk was undertaken to raise money for charity, and Bailey now becomes the oldest skydiver in Britain. This is not her first daredevil experience. When she turned 100, she drove a racing car at 209 kilometers per hour. Walter Lee, Arirang News.
Good job, how was that?
Good afternoon. We can certainly feel the intense heat has died down. Heat warnings have been downgraded to advisories in many parts, but it continues to be hotter than usual, with heat wave alerts remaining in place across much of Korea. Now, the coolest parts should be East Coast regions with easterly winds, but those winds will also bring rain to the East Coast areas in Jeju Island, where they could see up to 80 millimeters of showers until Thursday. Meanwhile, passing rain of 5 to 40 millimeters is in the forecast today. It could lash down 20 millimeters an hour along with thunderstorms, so please keep an umbrella handy. Checking on today's highs now, Seoul and Daejeon should be as hot as yesterday, getting up to 32 degrees. Daegu should be hotter this afternoon. Now, the rest of August looks like being a scorcher under sunnier skies, which could be the weather pattern through early September. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.